Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, Rays, and I'm sitting comfy today, and if you didn't see my previous video, well then I'll just make mention of it now. Kinda back playing Brave Exvius, not a ton, not a massive amount. Basically right now, I'm kind of just taking Brave Exvius pretty lightly. My main interest in terms of doing content is not trials, it's just not. It's terrifying to me. But really, kind of the main thing I'm enjoying just slowly getting back into the game is just doing the story and playing through a lot of the series boss battles. A lot that I have just not done recently, so yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to be doing for the next little bit. If you're interested in joining me either in these current videos or in restreams or streams, please feel free to join. But it's not just War of the Visions that I am playing, although that is something I am playing and still enjoying, despite, well, gotta make some videos about that. But anyway, today is the second of a video which is basically, you know, a nice little gold star for Alum. Every once in a while, I feel like we gotta give, you know, some big acknowledgement to things that are done right. And Dark Visions is something that when it first was announced and when we found out what it was and how it operated and everything, I was not a big fan of it. I thought it was incredibly whaley and just really uninteresting to me personally, and that made it very easy to not like. So for anybody who doesn't know, Dark Visions is basically a short period every month where you go to fight some pretty strong bosses. You set up elemental teams. You can set up a party of 6 members, and you do not need to, you don't bring a friend unit, you just set up your own parties, which obviously you need some more units, but setting up specific elemental designated teams means that you can make a very, very strong, you get like a boost for how much damage you do for that specific element. Also, there's, you know, different rewards, like in particular, you can end up with some really strong weapons by grinding those out. You can also, the big thing to do with Dark Visions is the fact that when you go to do a fight, and yes, I do realize that there has been changes to Dark Visions, and I think this isn't the updated way of grading people, but there is a grading system. In other words, every fight you do, the game essentially grades you and gives you a score on how good you did based on different categories, like this style, which I believe was the original style, was based on attack, you know, like how your attack is, how much damage you're doing, how many turns, what your biggest chain was. So this was a interesting way of going about it, essentially having, you know, a grading system. And I was not particularly positive on it. But also I wasn't particularly positive on the best system either. And recently I have kind of found definitely, you know, maybe a more long-term thing of positivity about it. And here, I'm going to give a big shout out to Alum doing this, because this is something that I think is one of the most difficult things to do in gaming nowadays, which is how do you keep players actively engaged? Obviously, you can make these trials, and these trials are, and PvP are some of the big things that keep whales spending a ton of money to keep the most updated, most powerful stuff. And they need that, you know, upgraded and powerful stuff so that they can do some of these incredibly trials, you know, easier kind of thing, or get through them faster so that they can be the first one to say that they did it. But outside of that, and outside of the tasks that you have to do for these, what incentive is there for players to keep doing this? Essentially nothing. And this was something that, as you guys know, because I do play this game, I reference this game a fair bit, is Hearthstone. Hearthstone has single-player adventures, which in a card game you're like, okay, so you fight a boss and you can bring your own card decks, and something that was in a more recent single-player expansion was everybody saying, man, I can't believe that I paid for this, it's just way too easy. And that kind of speaks volumes to a certain extent of how people view content nowadays. A lot of media, I've constantly said, is kind of one and done. It is essentially, well, I've seen it once, why would I want to watch it again? I mean, I liked it, but why would I want to watch it again? There's also people, you know, with that kind of thing with video games, where it's like, no, I played that video game once, and that's gonna be it for me. It's an interesting thing that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I absolutely love playing through some of my favorite games again and again and again. And, you know, like Final Fantasy VII. I played Final Fantasy VII a ton. I've just replayed Final Fantasy VIII on stream, and I've played that a ton too, and beat it a lot. But, so the real question is, how do you keep players actively engaged in trial difficulty content? And to that extent, I gotta say that Dark Visions is kind of a little bit genius. It's a really simple solution that I had not even considered myself, which is essentially to make trial content a very limited time, which this is something that Alan never figured out with their Fest units, I think, but it seems to be working, so a round of applause to you. But anyway, when it comes right down to it, the limited time thing does make people, you know, a little more, and it's regular too, so you always know it's coming back, but there's that little bit of stress for that period of being like, I gotta do this now because it's going to disappear. It was even some people in my chat that, some wonderful people in my chat that told me just how much they absolutely love this part, that it, you know, really makes polls worth it, because a lot of the new units like CG Pone, who is a incredibly powerful buffer, is essentially designed for Dark Vision. So it does give a purpose to this. Like the series boss battles are essentially mid-level content, which, you know, for anybody who says, oh man, these are so easy. Yeah, they're kind of meant to be that way. They're kind of mid-level stepping stones to get to higher level content. But CG Pone here, for example, is a really powerful Fest unit, which is essentially designed for Dark Visions, to make Dark Visions units, you know, to get through those incredibly difficult trials, and more importantly, get a better score. And this is the thing that I think is really kind of clever gameplay-wise, that kind of solves a problem of trials. Trying to design a trial every month is probably pretty difficult. It's hard to balance, get a good string of a balanced challenge that is somewhat difficult but not feeling incredibly cheap or random, because they've tried random before and everybody hated it. So not doing RNG, what are you supposed to do? Well, the scoring system is, like I said, I've said it a whole bunch of times at this point, but just kind of a little bit genius, just a little bit genius. It's such a simple thing that has been exploited in the past. When we had raid rankings, bots broke it and kind of took it away from us. But here, a bot really isn't going to do anything that well here. It kind of relies on players' skill to get higher scores, and it motivates whales, and essentially, you know, that EP of just a little bit, oh, I got 3 more points than you, no, I'm going to go try it again and get 3 more points than you. You know, the combination of it being time sensitive, that it is, you know, way more difficult enemies than you find in a lot of other content, and the scoring system really does push people, you know, whales to try harder for that content. It gives people something to do and look forward to every month, which I think is really incredibly important, as we found out with War of the Visions, where not having a set schedule, not really knowing, you know, so much what to expect or what a regular schedule looks like is a little bit sad. You get a little bit bored with it. And Brave Exvius over the years has developed a thing where, you know, on the JP side, we know basically always at the beginning of the month you have the Mog King, then you have the story event in the middle, and then you got the raid to cap off the end of the month. But here, Dark Visions is just another addition to that, but it really does provide a reason for these Fest units to exist. And that is good gameplay design. It is undeniably expensive, as I have said before. The Fests, I think, are just way too expensive. But the ranking system is just a kind of little ingenious thing, because, you know, going back to the old days, there is something that is undeniably beautiful about rarity in games. Like, there are 2 big things. One, I think that it does give people a little bit of pride. It does give a challenge in something. But it does give that all that kind of stuff, and it does solve this other problem that people are just really bad kind of entertaining themselves. The idea of providing your own challenge is a pretty foreign idea to a lot of people. They look only to what is currently in the game to provide them with what kind of challenge they should be doing or what they should be aiming for. You know, not many people go back and try another trial with weaker units, with a more difficult challenge. That is something that you kind of have to set up and design for yourself, and not a lot of people, I feel, do that with a ton of content. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everyone out there playing Brave Exvius has been doing it. But from my own experience in other games, it does seem like a lot of people don't have much of a concept of creating your own challenge. It's whatever the game provides, and that is it. So War of the Visions. What game am I talking about? Brave Exvius with Dark Visions does give people this kind of challenge. It gives them a little bit of a puzzle every month. You know, these new enemies and, you know, what elements should I use? How should I build my team and everything like that? But with the ranking system, it kind of just gives it a more weight in a PvP setting that is not PvP, that is competition, yet is fairly rewarding. And I'm going to talk about other things because I need a comparison to really, I feel, drive my point home. Right now, War of the Visions feels incredibly shitty for a lot of people, I feel like. And why? Take Arena. Arena currently is obviously filled, you know, the top spots with whales, but the problem is that only the top 10,000 every week get something extra. And a lot of people, currently, you know, there's about 60 or 70,000 people at least in the lower ranks, because I tried a slower week last week in Arena and I got an idea of how many people are at the lower levels. And it's just like, having such a small range with such bad rewards feels really terrible and demotivating. And I think Dark Visions has a pretty nice little thing where even if you don't get it, you know, it can kind of come back every month. It's a little bit hard to describe, but exactly why. But Dark Visions feels just kind of like this nice little gameplay element that was a problem that I've had with Brave Exvius gameplay design, of just being like, what are you supposed to do? Like, where the trials are just one and done kind of thing. Why would I go back to it? Okay, maybe I'm incredibly bored, but it's not something I make a regular point of. I believe like a long time ago, back when I was still streaming before I quit, I remember hearing that somebody was going through a ton of old trials using, what was it, like Medius or something, like, and that just blew my mind, because at the time, like, I wasn't even thinking about it. But yeah, I gotta say, Dark Visions is a great little gameplay solution that seems to keep giving every month. It's the best place where the ranking system, I think, has been put into the game. Maybe there are some people hacking it or cheating at it, but you can't preemptively block people. You can't just call them guilty before, or that would be really difficult to monitor. Anyway, regardless, I gave Alum a gold star for talking about, you know, that the Fest banners have been an upside for a lot of free-to-players with a lot of the free units, and here with Dark Visions, I feel it's kind of the same. It does give people another reason for this power level. It does give kind of a, you know, a competitive thing versus you and your friends, but something that is not necessarily grind, because it really is performance-based rather than just grind-based, where it's like, ah, man, how many raid points can I get in a month? So yeah, I got the most raid points. Or, you know, grinding out Arena. Here, it really does feel like a performance thing, and that is a little bit refreshing. So yeah, gold star to Alum, I think, for the Dark Visions. It is a thing that I don't think I appreciated enough at the beginning, and I don't even know if I fully appreciate it, because it doesn't overly appeal to me. But, you know, at the end of the day, Dark Visions did do something kind of wonderful, so again, a round of applause for Alum. Congratulations. Now add some different styles of challenges. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.